I've always loved Star Wars. I can't even remember the first memory I have. All I know is from the day I popped out of the womb, I consumed Star Wars. Man, my first introduction was the OT trilogy, but I'm a prequelist. That's my bread and butter. As a child, I spent hours playing the Rogue Squadron series, watching my cousin play Dark Forces or Jedi Outcast, classic games in their own respect. But over time, as I grew older and new interests and responsibilities caught my eye, Star Wars faded for a time. It wasn't until I decided to collect comics and the new Star Wars films were announced that my love for Star Wars was brought back to life. I will never forget when I saw the trailer for The Force Awakens. The first thing we see was Finn. I lost myself in the excitement, a young man of color who looks just like me, who represents the changing of the guard and return to the galaxy far, far away, a galaxy that is ready to take its first steps into a universe of representation for all. Man, that's incredible. But hey, don't get me wrong, Mace Windu and Lando Calrissian are iconic characters of their own, yet they're difficult characters for young men of color to relate to, including myself. Before The Force Awakens, we had Legends material, and even then, characters of color were few and far between. The arrival of Finn is a breath of fresh air for old and young fans of color, especially young men. In my opinion, Finn represents many aspects of life young men of color experience throughout the world, but particularly in the United States. Young men of color who grew up with no parents, many being raised by their grandparents or other members of the family or in single-parent households. An epidemic that is far too common in America. Finn growing up in the First Order is a parallel to what young men of color go through every day in this country. For me, Finn representation goes beyond the color of his skin. Finn represents an opportunity for families of color to create new bonds and revive old ones. I mean, how many young men of color who live in poor areas of the United States with high crime rates have lost friends to senseless violence, just like Finn lost his friend Slip at the massacre of Tuonul Village? Finn, a young man already conflicted by the violence surrounding him, decides to live life on his own terms, not on the terms of the First Order. This reflects many young men of color who choose to follow their passions and dreams and not allow the negative environment to define or control them. Finn also represents how important it is for young men of color to form platonic friendships with the opposite sex and race. That is just as important as having a real relationship. But the color of our skin does not determine the friendships we create and grow. We as young men of color need to step out of our comfort zones, not allowing the social and cultural prejudices we experience within our own communities and the world around us to prevent us from creating new friendships, new experiences, and following our passions. For the sacrifices Finn has shown throughout The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, we as young men of color must do the same. Well, that wraps up this episode of A Certain Point of View. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe, blast that like button, punch the bell to make the jump to lightspeed notification. Let's make the galaxy far, far away represent all. Much love, and may the Force bind and surround us all.